This is part 2 of section 6.4. We are just practicing factoring. I want to factor 12x squared minus 17xy minus 5y squared. The first thing I look for is a GCF. 17 is prime, so is 5, so nothing's coming out of this. There's not the same variable in all three terms, so there's no GCF. Okay, so no GCF. I have three terms. Do we have squares on the ends? No. Okay, so that means we have to go back and do what we did in 6.2. Since there's a number in front of my square term here, I need to multiply these two things together. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to a negative 60 and add to a negative 17. So I'm going to start listing things that multiply to 60. 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, and I could keep going, but this is what's going to work. If I'm multiplying to a negative, one of these two needs to be negative. I'm supposed to add to a negative, so my larger number needs to be negative. So that's right here. So I'm going to use 3 and negative 20. So I rewrite this as 12x squared minus 20xy. Remember, you want to put your minus first so that factoring by grouping is set up for you with the plus sign in the middle. So plus 3xy minus 5y squared. Okay, so now group these. From my first grouping, I can factor out a 4 and an x, and that leaves 3x minus 5y plus, from my second group, I can factor out a y, leaving 3x minus 5y. Now these two are the same, so we write that down once, 3x minus 5y. And then we make a set of parentheses out of what we have left, 4x plus y. Okay, so let's factor b squared minus 7ba minus 18a squared. First thing we look for is a GCF, and there is not one. Next thing we do is we have three terms, so we ask ourselves if we have squares on the ends. This is a perfect square, but 18 is not. Okay, so I don't have a perfect square trinomial. So I need to use what we learned in 6.2. This is the easier case in 6.2 because our first number is a 1. So that means what we need to do is we need to find two numbers that multiply to a negative 18 and add to a negative 7. So things that multiply to 18 would be 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. And if I take the 2 and the 9 and I make the 9 negative, they multiply to a negative 18 and they add to a negative 7. Since this is the easier case, I can go directly to my answer, but I do have to remember to take care of this a at the end. So I write b plus 2a times b minus 9a. Just remember to put that a in the end and you should be good. Okay, last problem in this section. We want to factor xy minus 9y plus xt minus 9t. The first thing I do is I look for a GCF. And if I look here and here, this only has x and y, and there's no xy here. There's no number here, so there's no GCF for the whole thing. Okay, so no GCF. We ask if we have four terms. And if we have four terms, and we do here, then we try to factor by grouping. Okay, so to factor by grouping, we need a plus sign in the middle, which we have. So group the first two and the second two together. From our first group, we have a y in both of these, so factor out that y, and that leaves x minus 9, plus, here I have a t in both of these, so I can factor out a t, also leaving x minus 9. So since I have the same thing here and here, I have x minus 9 times y plus t. And that should be your final answer.